You're holding your daughter's hand as two guards approach your door. She's wearing the white dress you embroidered for her last winter, the one with roses at the hem. Her hair is braided with fresh violets. She looks beautiful. She looks 12. One guard smiles kindly and tells you the emperor personally selected her from among hundreds. An honor beyond measure. Your daughter squeezes your hand tighter. You want to scream. You want to run. Instead, you smile back and tell her how proud you are. You watch the imperial carriage disappear down the marble road, and you know in that sick, heavy place beneath your ribs that the girl who returns will not be the same girl who just left. She returns at all. Before we go deeper, drop a comment and let me know where in the world you're watching from. It astounds me every time that a story buried for 2,000 years can echo across every continent, every language, reaching people the Romans never imagined existed. Rome. 39 AD. There's a building on the Palatine Hill that doesn't appear on any official maps. The servants call it the Garden of Venus. The name sounds like poetry. It isn't. It's a processing center. Inside, behind walls draped in silk and perfumed with imported frankincense, the Roman Empire is running an operation so methodical, so bureaucratically efficient, that it would make a modern administrator nod in recognition. They're cataloging girls. Age, hair color, family lineage, estimated value. Each one recorded on wax tablets by clerks who've done this so many times they no longer pause between entries. The man who designed this system is 27 years old. His name is Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus Germanicus. History will remember him as Caligula. And what he's doing to the virgins of Rome isn't random cruelty. It's architecture. It's policy. It's a machine built to break not just bodies, but the entire social structure of the most powerful empire on earth. But to understand how a human being becomes capable of this, you have to go back. Back to when he was just a child in military boots. The year is 19 AD. A 7-year-old boy runs between the tent rows of his father's legion, in miniature soldier's armor. The men call him Caligula, Little Boots, and they adore him. He's the son of Germanicus, Rome's golden general, the man who conquered Germania, and whom soldiers would follow into the underworld itself. The boy has no concept of politics yet, no understanding that his bloodline makes him both precious and desperately dangerous. He just knows the soldiers smile when they see him. He thinks he's safe. 1 year later, his father dies. The official report says sudden illness. The whispers say poison, ordered by the Emperor Tiberius, who saw Germanicus as a threat. The boy is 8 when they drag his mother from their home in chains. 9 when his oldest brother is imprisoned and starved until he tries to eat the wool from his mattress. 11 when his second brother is exiled to an island where guards torture him until he bashes his own skull against the walls to make it stop. By the time Caligula turns 19, he's the last one left. Everyone he loved has been systematically erased. Then the summons arrives. Tiberius wants him on Capri. The island of Capri in 31 AD is not a place, it's a laboratory. Tiberius has transformed it into something historians will struggle to describe without sounding hysterical. Suetonius and Tacitus, writing decades later with access to eyewitnesses. Document chambers designed for specific types of degradation. Rooms where Tiberius experiments with how far human dignity can bend before it shatters. Into this environment walks teenage Caligula. He knows Tiberius murdered his family. Everyone knows, but he can't show anger, can't show grief, can't show anything but perfect, smiling obedience. One wrong expression, and he joins his brothers. For 6 years, he watches, he studies. He learns exactly how power works when it's stripped of all pretense. Suetonius writes something that should make your skin crawl. There never was a better slave or a worse master. Caligula is learning his craft from a grand master of cruelty. He's learning that systems are more effective than tantrums. That bureaucracy is more brutal than any blade. That if you make the victim's family complicit, they'll never rebel. Then in 37 AD, Tiberius dies. Some say natural causes. Others say Caligula smothered him with a pillow. Either way, the hostage becomes emperor. Rome erupts in celebration. They think they're getting the son of beloved Germanicus. They have no idea what just walked out of Capri. For 7 months, Caligula is perfect. He releases prisoners. He hosts games. He distributes grain to the poor. Rome hasn't been this happy in decades. Then he gets sick. A fever that lasts weeks, that has physicians whispering and senators praying. When he wakes up, something behind his eyes has changed. The mask he wore for 6 years on Capri has fused to his face. He can't take it off anymore. He doesn't want to. And Rome is about to learn what he's been hiding. It starts with a census. That's what they call it, officially. Imperial functionaries begin traveling through Rome and the surrounding territories with wax, tablets, and measuring strings. They visit patrician estates and plebeian apartments alike. They're not counting population. They're shopping. They're looking for girls between 12 and 16, specific physical characteristics. Verified virgins confirmed through family reputation and sometimes through examination by midwives who've learned not to be gentle. Suetonius describes this process in fragments that even he, a man who documented orgies and murders without flinching, seems uncomfortable recording. The girls are evaluated like livestock. Faces examined, bodies measured, pedigrees verified. Then the best ones, the most beautiful, the most prestigious, the most symbolically valuable, are marked for collection. The families don't resist. This is the part that's hard for modern minds to grasp. Parents compete for this. They braid their daughters' hair with flowers. They dress them in white. They weep when the imperial carriage departs, but they weep quietly. Because crying too loudly would mean they're not grateful, and not being grateful would mean dishonoring the emperor, and dishonoring the emperor would mean death for everyone. So they swallowed their screams. They accept the gold the officials offer. They tell themselves it's a privilege. They watch their daughters disappear up the Palatine Hill, and they go back inside, and they never speak of it again. The tablets are meticulous. Name, age, physical description, family connections. Each girl becomes an entry in an accounting system. This isn't passion. This isn't even lust. This is inventory management. Human beings reduced to data points in a ledger. And the truly horrifying part, it works beautifully. Dozens of officials processing hundreds of candidates, reports filed, quotas met. The machine runs with the efficiency of a grain distribution program, 'cause that's what it is. Distribution, except the commodity, is children. They're brought to a wing of the palace that the servants called the Garden of Venus. The name is deliberate psychological warfare. It sounds beautiful, romantic, safe. The reality is architectural torture. The rooms are stunning. Silk curtains, soft beds, perfumes so thick you can taste it. Food these girls have never seen before. Everything designed to confuse the senses. Because here's what this does to the human mind. It creates cognitive dissonance. Your eyes tell you you're in paradise. Your instincts scream that you're in danger. And when those two signals contradict each other long enough, your brain starts to fracture. The girls can't leave their rooms without permission, can't write to their families, don't know what day it is, don't know what they're waiting for. They just wait. Sometimes for days, sometimes for weeks. No one explains anything. And at night, they hear footsteps in the corridor, stopping at a door, a girl being summoned. And the next morning, that girl is different, quieter, emptier, or she doesn't come back at all. The servants watch everything. Every tear gets reported. Every whispered conversation between girls gets documented. If two girls start forming a friendship, finding comfort in shared horror, they're separated immediately. Move to different wings, because connection breeds strength, and strength breeds resistance. Isolation is load-bearing architecture in this system. The waiting itself is the torture. In the 1960s, a psychologist named Martin Seligman discovered something disturbing about learned helplessness. When subjects, first dogs, then humans, learned that nothing they did could change their situation, they stopped trying. Not from weakness, from a desperate attempt at psychological survival. The brain shuts down hope because hope in a hopeless situation is agony. The girls in the Garden of Venus are being systematically taught helplessness. By the time Caligula summons them, most have already surrendered. That's the design. That's why the system works. But Caligula isn't satisfied with just the girls. He wants to break everyone. Because the true genius of tyranny isn't controlling your victims. It's making everyone complicit. The imperial banquets become theater. Marble halls filled with Rome's most powerful men, senators, generals, provincial governors, eating delicacies and pretending everything is normal. Then Caligula stands, walks between the tables, examines the wives of his guests the way he examines the girls in his garden. He selects one, takes her hand, leads her away, and her husband sits there, does nothing, says nothing, because objecting means his children die by morning. His family's name gets erased from Roman history. His estates get seized. So he sits, drinks his wine, makes conversation with the man beside him, who's also pretending not to hear anything. 20 minutes pass. 30, the room is silent, except for forced laughter and the sound of cups being refilled. Everyone pretending this is normal. Everyone pretending they can't hear what's happening in the next room. Cassius Dio records one specific incident. A senator named Valerius Asiaticus watches Caligula take his wife. When she returns, face blank, dress hastily retied, Caligula sits down and begins describing in graphic detail exactly what happened. He rates her performance, compares her to other senators' wives, makes jokes, and Asiaticus has to smile, has to nod, has to thank him for the honor. Some humiliations you don't forget. 3 years later, Asiaticus is one of the conspirators who helps plan Caligula's assassination. But here's the evil genius of the banquet. It's not just about violating the women. It's about trapping the men. Once you sit at that table and do nothing while the emperor destroys someone's wife, you're guilty too. You can't expose him without exposing yourself. You can't rebel because you're already part of the machine. You've already chosen silence. And that choice is its own kind of chain. Suetonius mentions that Caligula sometimes loans the palace girls to favored senators, not as gifts, as traps. Accept the loan and you've participated. You're now an accomplice. Refuse and you've insulted the emperor. Either choice destroys you. That's how tyranny actually operates. Not through armies and laws alone, through shame, through complicity. Through making everyone so morally contaminated that no one can point fingers without implicating themselves. The senators go home after these banquets. They kiss their children goodnight. They pray to their household gods. They tell themselves they're still honorable men, but they know. And Caligula knows they know. And that knowledge is its own form of captivity. For 4 years, the machine runs. Girls processed, senators broken, parents complicit, guards watching, servants recording. An entire system functioning with bureaucratic precision. And it would have kept running for decades, maybe, if Caligula hadn't made one critical mistake. He forgot about the guards. The Praetorian Guard stands inches from the emperor every day. Armed, trained, lethal, one of them is named Cassius Sharia, senior officer, decorated veteran. A man who has served Rome with honor for 30 years. Sharia has one physical characteristic Caligula finds endlessly amusing: a high-pitched voice. Every single day, new mockery, new jokes in front of everyone. When Sharia asks for the daily military password, standard protocol. Caligula assigns him words like Venus or Priapus or kiss me, feminine words, sexual words, humiliating words. The other guards smirk. day after day, month after month. Suetonius notes that Caligula thought this was hilarious, thought Sharia would swallow it like everyone else. He miscalculated. Senators have families to protect. They can rationalize silence, but Sharia is a soldier, a man trained to solve problems with a blade, a man who stands next to the emperor every day with a sword on his hip. And Caligula has just taught him that life under this emperor isn't worth living. January 24, 41 AD, Caligula walks through an underground corridor beneath the theater. Narrow, dimly lit, stone walls on both sides. He's in a good mood. Looking forward to a performance, Sharia is waiting in the shadows. The details come from multiple sources. When Caligula approaches, Sharia steps forward. Standard protocol. He asks for the daily password. Caligula smirks, opens his mouth to deliver one more humiliation. One last joke at Sharia's expense. He never finishes the sentence. Caligula's reign ended, not with ceremony, but with sudden, contained fury. Trapped in a narrow corridor, surrounded by men who had endured years of fear and humiliation, he was struck down in moments. The attack was relentless, driven by rage that had been building since the first days of his tyranny. When it was over, there was no doubt he was dead. To ensure no future retaliation, the violence extended to his family. With his wife and young daughter killed, the imperial line was deliberately erased. Yet the murder of the emperor did not end the problem he left behind. Hidden within the palace were young women imprisoned in the Garden of Venus, victims of abuse that threatened to disgrace the entire Roman elite. The new emperor, Claudius, faced a choice that could destabilize the empire: expose the truth or bury it. He chose silence. The women were quietly sent back to their families with lavish gifts meant not as justice, but as payment for forgetting. Many families accepted, knowing public acknowledgement would only deepen shame. Official records were destroyed, and history was rewritten through omission. But trauma survived where documents did not. Later physicians described women haunted by captivity, mute, sleepless, withdrawn, unreachable by medicine. Fragments of testimony surfaced centuries later, preserved by chance, hinting at suffering too disturbing to fully record. What remains is only a shadow of the truth, shaped by deliberate erasure. The Roman state survived, but at the cost of memory, justice, and countless silenced lives. The Garden of Venus is gone now, buried under centuries of construction and imperial renovations. Archaeologists have found fragments, a mosaic here, a perfume bottle there. But the rooms themselves, destroyed. Forgotten. Rome wanted to forget. But you can't erase everything. You can't burn what people carry inside them. You can't destroy the fragments survivors hide in places no one thinks to look. The girl from the beginning of this story, the one in the white dress with violets in her hair, she was real. We don't know her name. History didn't bother recording it. She was just a number on a wax tablet, a line in a ledger. But she existed. She had dreams. She had a family. She had a whole life stretching ahead of her before the guards knocked on her door. That's what empires do. They turn people into numbers. They turn lives into inventory. They build systems so efficient that no one person feels responsible. The officials were just following orders. The guards were just doing their jobs. The senators were just protecting their families. The parents were just accepting an honor. Everyone had an excuse. And the machine kept running. The only thing that stopped it wasn't morality, it wasn't justice, wasn't the Roman people rising up in outrage. It was one soldier who got humiliated one too many times and happened to be holding a sword. If Sharia had been a little more patient, a little more afraid, the machine would have kept running. How long? We'll never know. Systems of cruelty don't fall because they're evil. They fall by accident. By one person breaking at exactly the right moment in exactly the right place. The rest of the time, they just keep running, consuming lives, creating silence. waiting for someone to finally say enough. The Garden of Venus operated for 4 years. 4 years of girls processed like inventory. 4 years of senators broken at banquets. 4 years of parents handing over daughters and calling it an honor. And if one soldier hadn't been mocked one too many times, it could have been 40 years. 400. The machine doesn't care how long it runs, it just runs. And the only thing that stops it, has ever stopped it, is someone who refuses to stay quiet. That's why these stories echo, not because they're safely buried in the past, because they're patterns, templates, blueprints that get reused again and again. Different faces, different places, same machine. And the only thing standing between the machine and its next victim is someone willing to remember what happened the last time. The girl in the white dress never got to tell her story, but we're telling it now, 2,000 years later. In languages the Romans never imagined, reaching corners of the world they never knew existed. And somewhere in that, there's something they couldn't destroy. Something that survives every purge, every fire, every attempt at erasure. The truth that some things should never be forgotten.